Hello, my name is Maia and I'm here to present Organic Narratives, teaching design students the art of conceptual foundations. This presentation explores the importance of teaching design students how to establish a strong conceptual foundation in their creative process. We believe that a well-defined narrative provides a guiding framework for design decisions, ensuring coherence, consistency, innovation, and depth. In simplified terms, narrative can be understood as a storytelling, while concept relates to metaphor. Although they are not exactly the same, from our perspective they are inseparable. Together, they form the foundation of any meaningful design project. In this study, we approach them as a unified block. To contextualize the role of narrative, we turn to the perspective of Sykes and Gale, that describe human beings as storytelling creators who perceive the world and things through the construction of narratives to explain and interpret events both for themselves or for others. For them, a narrative takes humans to extrapolate behind reality, makes them dream or enchant through a universe of ideas, images, visions, offering an alternative path to the raw and immediate reality. This ability to imagine and dream is fundamental to design practice. Establishing a clear concept or narrative at the beginning of a project is essential for achieving meaningful and successful outcomes. This understanding aligns with the definition offered by Erloff and Marshall in the Design Dictionary, where they describe conceptual design as a practice that speculates with form in ways that push the boundaries of what is understood to be acceptable in design. Given its significance, this stage of the design process must be clearly understood and intentionally addressed in design education. Recognizing this as a crucial stage in the design process, it must be thoroughly explored when teaching future designers. However, addressing this stage efficiently in the classroom presents its own challenges. Based on our experience, supported by literature and discussions with colleagues, there is a shared understanding that teaching something abstract, immaterial, and intangible presents a significant challenge. This challenge is evident in how students typically engage with the early stage of concept development. They often perceive the process of defining a concept as abstract and difficult to grasp, frequently confusing it with the articulation of design intentions, underscoring the need for effective teaching strategies. It is essential to support students in understanding and integrating conceptual design, enabling them to develop innovative and dynamic projects that push the boundaries of creativity. To explore this approach in practice, a design exercise was developed and implemented with first-year university design students. Nature was introduced as a conceptual trigger, encouraging students to define project narratives from the very beginning of the design process. In this context, nature functioned as a rich source of inspiration, illustrating how organic structures, ecosystems, and natural patterns embody coherence, adaptability, and systemic intelligence. The objective was to evaluate a pedagogical strategy grounded in the principles of nature and biodesign, one that through the observation, analysis, and interpretation of natural elements fosters for the students a deeper understanding of how to construct meaningful design narratives. Why nature? There could be any other conceptual triggers, but nature offers a particularly rich and complex system. Its diversity and millions of years of evolution provide an endless source of visual, formal, technical, and behavioral references. Throughout history, the rhythms, balances, and energies of nature have deeply influenced humanity, shaping our poetic sensibilities and aesthetic imagination. Behind artistic and symbolic influence, nature has also played a central role in shaping practical everyday innovations. Nature has long been the source of inspiration for many everyday products around us. For example, the invention of Velcro was inspired by the burdock plant's ability to cling to dog fur. The desert beetle's capacity to capture and store water led to the creation of a new generation of portable water bottles. The boxfish, with its remarkable internal structure, inspired a more aerodynamic and fuel-efficient Mercedes concept car. And in Japan, engineers redesigned the front of the bullet train by mimicking the shape of the kingfisher's beak, reducing noise, eliminating tunnel booms, and allowing the train to travel 10% faster while consuming 15% less electricity. Another extraordinary example is the work of Ross Lovergrove, known for his concept of organic essentialism. He believes that there is an inherent beauty in organic forms, one that resonates deeply with the human subconscious. He is perhaps the designer who has most successfully translated the principles of nature into commercially viable products. We strongly encourage students to explore Lovergrove's work as a key reference in the intersection of design and nature. In the following slides, I will briefly present three of these projects. The first one is the ghost stacking chair. It is inspired by the structural efficiency and the elegance of bones, translating organic principles into lightweight, functional design. Another one is Apple Ammonite. It is a laptop concept inspired by the smooth, organic form of a stone, blending natural aesthetics with contemporary technology and offering improved ergonomic comfort through its rounded tactile design. And Tainan, a water bottle inspired by the fluidity and elegance of water in motion, capturing its dynamic form in a sculptural functional design. We also show them some selected projects from the Biodesign Laboratory at Federal University of Pernambuco, Brazil, conducted by Professor Amilcar Arruda, has very good examples that align with the proposed approach. Finally, students were introduced to the Biomimicry Institute and its philosophy, one that emphasizes learning from nature rather than extracting from it. We also explored with students the resources provided by the Biomimicry Institute, including their website asknature.org, a kind of encyclopedia filled with nature-based examples that can be translated into design narratives and applied to project development. After raising students' awareness of the importance and potential of nature in design narratives, the exercise briefing was introduced. The activity took place at the Polytechnic University of Coimbra, Portugal, where I teach in the Art and Design degree program. It was carried out within the Design 2 course with first-year students and was implemented over 2 consecutive academic years, resulting in the development of more than 30 distinct narratives and concepts. Students could work individually or in teams of 2, and the duration of the exercise was 1 month. What to do? Students were asked to create a narrative or a concept inspired by nature with the intention of designing a product for domestic use that promotes one or several of these actions, socializing and performing tasks. How? They should produce two different parts. One, preparatory study, where they observe, analyze, and drawing nature. The second one, dedicated to the project, where they build the narrative concept of the project and they develop the product. The expected outcomes were 1 project book, 2 posters, one dedicated to the study of nature, the second poster where they present the narrative and the final project, and 1 mock-up of the product. We Related to research sources, we encourage students to watch TED Talks or other conferences related to biodesign, conduct detailed online research, consult books in the library, and visit natural environments for direct observation and inspiration. It was important to remind students that the focus of the exercise was on developing the narrative and concept from the very beginning of the project, during the early phase of exploration and inspiration. Following the presentation of the theoretical framework, students were asked to begin by studying and analyzing examples of nature that sparked their interest and curiosity, particularly those that could be meaningfully connected to their response to the project briefing. The initial research phase was guided by three possible approaches: form in nature, structure in nature, or behavior observed in nature. Students initiated their research phase by exploring and illustrating natural elements through observation and drawing. It is important to highlight the diversity and richness of natural references explored by students, ranging from intangible phenomena such as shadows, through wind and water, to living organisms like animals and plants, as well as inanimate elements such as stones. This wide spectrum reflects an intentional effort to observe nature in its many forms, engaging with its rhythms, structures, and behaviors through curiosity and interpretation. To illustrate how this diversity translated into design outcomes, the next slides showcase 4 student projects, each guided by a distinct concept or narrative inspired by nature. The first project develops a narrative inspired by the structural efficiency and likeness of bones, resulting in a knife design that used less material, achieving a visual, lighter and more elegant form. This one is a suspended salt shaker that builds its design narrative on the behavior of honey ants, which use their bodies as living storage units for the entire colony. Their abdomens swell enormously to conserve food and are often seen hanging from the ceiling of anthill chambers. Another one inspired by how sunlight filters through tree canopies. To cast sunlight patterns, the student designed a lamp that recreates this effect through shadow and light refraction. The last one, drawing from the organic curves and asymmetrical forms of shelves and cornices, this project culminated in the design of a sculptured portable wine cellar. Results and discussion. The outcomes were highly encouraging. Students showed marked improvement in articulating their design concepts. Their projects reflect a better coherence and narrative clarity. Overall, the approach proved to be more engaging and meaningful for the students. In conclusion, the integration of nature in concept development significantly enriched students' understanding of narrative in design. This approach fostered a more meaningful, reflective, and contextually grounded design process. As such, it emerged as a valuable pedagogical strategy for teaching conceptual thinking in design education. I would also like to highlight that this exercise was primarily aimed at encouraging students to develop a narrative or a concept from the very beginning of the project. The focus was not solely on the final result, but on helping students understand that a well-defined narrative early on can guide the creative process in a more conscious and structural way. This narrative acts as a guiding thread, not fixed or rigid, but elastic, allowing for adaptation throughout the development. What matters most is that it remains present, providing coherence to design decisions. In this way, the final outcome is no longer the result of chance or purely aesthetic choices, but the reflection of a well-founded process that the student can clearly explain and defend with intention. Thank you. Feel free to contact me by email if you have any questions, would like to discuss further, or need additional information.